Horses and humans have evolved together over more than just thousands of years. It's probably more like hundreds of thousands of years, if not even millions of years, to the point where the affinity for horses is in our genetic code. What is very apparent to me is that you're either a horse person or you are not, and there's just not a real fuzzy line between the two. And then you talk to somebody and you ask them what was their first experience with a horse, and they were plopped on a pony when they were age 5. You know, they couldn't help themselves from there. So I think that the link between horses and humans is within our DNA, and I think is incredibly strong.
My first memory with a horse definitely would have been at my grandparents' farm in Potomac, Maryland. They had a bunch of horses, and I was probably thrown on a horse that was much too big and much too forward for me at a very young age, and had a lot of fun.
I was horse crazy from the day I remember seeing my first, horse in a pasture. As a kid driving by, I used to always want to pull over, feed them carrots.
Even though I grew up with ponies and rode them recreationally, my first real meaningful interaction with a horse was when I was in vet school. Up until that point, I didn't know if I was going to be a small animal veterinarian or a mixed animal veterinarian, but when I started working on horses, it was life-changing for me, and I knew from that moment on what I wanted to do.
Like many people, I started my love for horses on a pony ride when I was 6 years old. That grew into a passion for riding in the hunters and jumpers as a child, and turned into eventing when I went to high school and college.
My first memory with a horse was actually a rather feral, grumpy old man. He was probably in his teens at that point, but would pick their people. And I had just turned 8, I think. Was a little nervous of him, but for some reason I kind of saw him and I was like, you are my counterpart in horse form, despite the crankiness. And I remember just sitting in a field with him in turnout and spending time with him. That point forward, I still like to just graze a horse at the end of the day and enjoy that peace and quiet. And that's probably my first true memory, despite a lesson here or there, of what shaped me as a veterinarian right now.
First memory with a horse, actually. So I'm a Long Island native, and my dad was actually really into race horses when I was a kid. So we would actually go to the Belmont racetrack once a week, every weekend, and I was obsessed with watching them get tacked up, and watching the grooms groom them and everything like that. Those memories kind of, blossomed into my parents buying me my first riding lesson when I was 7, and then doing pony camp and stuff like that. And I've always, growing up, been so intrigued when the vets would come and do stuff, and that kind of inspired me to be where I am today.